thank you for having invited me today. I'm very happy to be here. Of course, I would prefer to be in Romania with you, but it's not possible. So I think we have to do the best we can in this situation. So to be honest, it's the first time I use Zoom for presentation. So I'm not sure how to use it. I try. So please let me know if you see my
You
screen.
share screen, yes?
Okay. Um, so I think
Yes, it's okay. It's
it's
okay.
okay. Okay,
Yes?
great, perfect. So can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Um, so today we are here because the Serum Consortium asked me to talk to you about how to apply for research funding, giving you some tips on how to found funding opportunities and how to try to write a grant, a successful grant. So the lecture will be in two parts. The first part will be about the funding opportunities for PhD and postdoc students. And then I'll try to give you some best practice on grant writing. And I will use the European Marie Sklodowska-Curie Action individual fellowship as an example. This is not a lecture on the Marie Curie action, because I usually have a workshop that it lasts 2 days about how to write a Marie Sklodowska-Curie grant. But I'll try to use it because I think the MSCA action are a great opportunity for a young researcher. So I think that if you are a PhD student or you are a postdoctoral student at the beginning of your career, you should try to apply for an individual fellowship. Tomorrow I will be at your disposal between 4:30 to 6. We can have a chat, a meeting. So if you want to contact me, I think it's better if you send me an email after the presentation, so we can arrange a meeting time. And then I will see how many people do want to talk with me, and I can give you a feedback tomorrow about the time. Is this fine for you? So this is the agenda. I would like, sorry, I would like, okay. This is the agenda, and I briefly will introduce the MCA action, just to let you know what we will talk about. Then we will talk about funding opportunities, and then about the writing process. Okay, first of all, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the framework programs of the European Commission. As you might know, the European Commission actually funds research and innovation action for a private company, for a research center, for academy. And the majority of the funds are thanks to the framework program Horizon 2020 in the previous 7 years. And now it will start the next framework program that is called Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is not yet started. It will start, I think, in spring. The date is not decided yet. But I want to show you this example, the structure of both Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, because both in Horizon 2020 and in Horizon Europe, the Marie Sklodowska-Curie action are within the excellent science pillar. And this pillar, this part of the funds of the framework programs are dedicated to excellent researcher, excellent scientists in every a different level of their scientific career. researchers that they want to move or come to Europe, and to support their training activity and their research activity. In particular, the MSCA support researchers in all the scientific domains, and they are very useful because they promote the collaboration between the academic, the scientific, and the business communities. And they develop the training activities in Europe, and also favor international and intersectoral mobility. So there in Horizon Europe, there will be 5 different actions. These were the actions that were present in Horizon 2020. The action will be the same also in Horizon Europe, but probably they will have different names. So today we will talk about individual fellowship, but there are also other opportunities for consortium, for consortia, like Innovative Training Network, the RISE action, the program co-found, of course, every one of you know the European Researcher Night. So, as I said, we will talk today about individual fellowship because I think that maybe you can better know this name rather than the new name. But I try to move to the next slide. Okay. The new name of the individual fellowship is postdoctoral fellowship, but it's exactly the same. Please remember that there are no up-to-date information on the future of the Marie Curie fellowship. It's possible that a template I show you will be different in the next future, but it seems that the final structure of the grant will be very similar to the grant of Horizon 2020 individual fellowship action. Individual fellowship or postdoctoral fellowship, that is the same, offer opportunities to postdoctoral researchers who want to work on a personal research project. And of course, you have to go to a European organization and work in an European organization. And at the end of the postdoctoral fellowship, you will have to acquire a new skill, a new competence, because a very important part of a postdoctoral fellowship is also the training. So, as for the Marie Curie individual fellowship, it's just a very short description in order for you to understand what I'm talking about. But of course, the Marie Curie are not the only opportunities you have, because there are a lot of different funding opportunities. And I think that it's never too early to think about what you need the money for. I mean, of course, every researcher wants to be funded, but you need money for yourself, for paying your salary, or do you need money for travel or for doing field work? I don't know, you're going to a workshop. So I think that even if you are in the first year of your doctorate, you should start trying to obtain funding, maybe for travel grant or for going in a workshop, because it will be very useful for you when you will have to write a larger, more complex grant application. So start now to investigate in different possible funding bodies. I will show you some websites that I think you should know. First of all, there are the official website. This is the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. That is the European Commission official website. As you can see, there are all the EU program here. Here there is Horizon 2020, and in the next month there will be Horizon Europe. This is the first part I usually suggest to see if you want to apply for a grant. Again, the European Commission published a very interesting document that is called the Guide to EU Funding. Now, of course, this is the old one. The new one is not yet ready, but it's still very interesting to have a look at this document because there are a lot of information, more information than the information you immediately find in the participant portal, in the funding portal I showed you before. Because in the EU funding, you also find information about national funding in different European countries. EURACSIS, I think if you are a PhD student, probably already know this website. EURACSIS is a website that delivers information and support service to researchers. You can find job opportunities, award opportunities here. You can find information about your career development. And then there is also a link to national portals. And so you can go and have a look to the portal of the nation you would like to go and doing research. And from the national portal, there are many other links to national website. So, for example, I think there are some websites the national websites that are better than other. Website of the Ministry of Education, the German Ministry of Education, is very well done. And if you go to this website, you can also download this document that include all the grant or the fellowship and awards for international PhD student and researcher. But there are very similar information also if you, I don't know, look on the French website or the Italian website. You have to go to EURACSIS first and then go to the national website. I don't know why sometimes my laptop doesn't work. I can move to the next slide. If you can give me some suggestion. Okay, I try again. Also, the Maria Zudowska-Curie website is very nice because you can find both information on the actions, but also information about how to find job, and there are information about awards, grants all over Europe. And then there is the Joint Research Center external staff recruitment application website. The JRC is the department of the European Commission that is in charge to give support, independent scientific and technological support for EU policy making. And here in this website that is called ESDRA, there are a lot of information about I don't know, awards, grant, other position you can apply for. So also this one is very interesting. But my favorite one is the next one, this one. No, I'm joking, but since we know that there are a lot of information in the internet, with my team we have collected a series of funding bodies, both at European level, at international level, funding bodies that give opportunities to international researchers. And so I'm sorry, today, in these days, our website is only in Italian, but we are planning to translate it in English in the next month. So if you want to go there, have a look. There are about 80, more than 80 funding bodies. And for every funding bodies, there is a link, so you can just go there and you will go directly to the funding body of your interest. And this is an example. And then I also very like the rich website. I don't know, but if you know it, but in Europe there are hundreds of research infrastructure, and you can go and visit those infrastructure and work with the researcher and participate in their workshop and use their equipment. And you can use this website for try to see if there is some call open, because they can pay you the travel, the cost for the travel to go there and for staying there. And so it's very useful to use. It's very simple to use. You can choose your domain, the type of access. I choose the translational access because I would like to fly in the next future, but there is also the possibility of using this infrastructure virtually. And it's just an example here. As you can see, there is in the engineering and energy sector, there is this group of 15 partners, so 15 facilities working on biomass conversion, and they pay you a grant for travel and subsistence, and if you are interested, and the next deadline is April the 1st. Of course, this is just an example, and there are a lot of different facilities you can visit, and also there are a lot of information here you can have a look to. The next website is called Merrill. It's very similar to Reach. You can choose your scientific domain and the country you like to go, and you can find other opportunities. Here, just an example. There are this group of infrastructure working on robotics, and they offer access to their infrastructure, and they also organize a training experience for PhD student, postdoctoral student, and you just go and have a look, and so you can apply for smaller grants, but can be useful for you in this moment. The same idea is for cost. COST stands for European Cooperation in Science and Technologies. Also in this case, there are consortia working on different research fields, from engineering to, I don't know, archaeology, biology, and they offer travel grants, the possibility to work with them, to participate in their event. So it's the same. You go on this website and look if there is some action that is good for you, and try to apply for their opportunity. So, to be honest, in the web there are a lot of information, but I think I give you the most important website. I mean, the website you can start to look at, and from every website I show you today, there are many other links, so you have to spend some time to look for the type of grant, award, or fellowship you want and you need. Because as I said, always to everyone that asked me, grant writing and grant finding is a very time-consuming process. So you have to start from the early beginning of your career. I don't think grant writing is tedious, to be honest. Otherwise, I will not do what I'm doing today. But definitely the success rate can be depressing. Then there is a lot of pressure in all the discipline to obtain a grant. So there is no easy way to write and to obtain a grant, but I think there are some steps you can take that make this process less stressful. So we can start from this step. The first step is to start, of course. And you have to start early, because the fact that there is a lot of time you need to invest in the grant writing process, because sometimes you need preliminary data to include in your work, because you need time to write, check and revise your proposal. You have to improve your project ideas. And then there is a lot of time you need to maybe prepare your supporting documents, because, for example, you need the institution letter, or some letter of commitments, some letter from your supervisor. You have to remember where you put your degrees, and you have to find them and copy them and send them to the funding body. So my first suggestion is to start very, very early. And then you have to read all the relevant documents of the proposal of the body. You have to the funding body you have decided to apply to. And it seems stupid, but sometimes some experienced researcher that ask my office for advice, they come to us and they haven't read the documents. So I think it's better for you start to reading all the notes and make sure you understand the component of a typical grant proposal. So here is the example of the Marie Curie Individual Fellowship. This is the funding and tender opportunity portal I showed you before. This is, of course, the call of the last year. Now this call is closed. It was closed in September, and it will be open probably in April 2021, and it will close again in September 2021. But the structure will be the same. So you will have, first of all, the work program. Funding opportunities under Horizon Europe will be set out in multi-annual work programs, which cover the large majority of support available. So the first thing to do is to read the work program for the Marie Curie or for the other call in Horizon Europe. This is the typical structure of a work program. As you can see, within a work program, there are different calls for a proposal. And so you have to obviously look for the call you are interested to. And within the call is very well articulated. There are a lot of information. There are the objective of the call, there are the scope of the call, the impact of the call. And so you have to read all these documents very well, because all this information have to be then explained in your own proposal. On the website for the Marie Curie project, there are a lot of other information, the eligibility condition, the proposal template, which are the evaluation criteria, and then there is this other document that is called Guide for Applicant. In the Guide for Applicant is written everything you need to know about how to write, how to apply for a Marie Curie project. But there are a guide for applicant for a lot of other kind of call. So if you want to check, take a look of the website and try to familiarize with these terms: work program, call, topics, guide for applicants. Then I think, and here you can see there is evaluation, that you have to really understand everything you can about the reviewers, the evaluation criteria and the success rate. And this is not only true for the Marie Curie, but it's true for every grant you will decide to apply for. Because you have to understand that there are different kinds of reviewers. Reviewers can be from anywhere in the world, and maybe one of them are not a specialist in your own field. So you have to write exactly what they want to read in a clear and ambiguous manner. And you have to try to write, remembering that the reviewers get hundreds of applications and need to make a valuable selection of candidates within a very short time frame. So it's better to try to understand not only the people who will evaluate you, because the database for Horizon Europe are published for the past call, but of course you will not know who will be the reviewer of your own proposal, but at least you can understand the evaluation criteria, how your proposal will be evaluated. And then of course you have to become familiar with the grant writing early on. Many among you are PhD student or early postdoc, so I think you can ask your supervisor or the team you are working with to see the draft of work that is being done in your team. In this way you can keep getting a sense of the process before you have to do a grant proposal on your own, and especially because it's always worth getting a bit of early experience in grant writing, even you are not thinking about writing a grant in this moment. Talk with the colleagues who have applied to the same organization is very important. Is important as well, because organizations have different priorities, have different emphasis. And so there are different ways of applying for different organizations. You also can consult your university expert for proposal writing and application. If you don't have it, you can contact the expert at national level. For Horizon Europe, every European nation has a national contact point. Also extra, there are some national contact points also extra Europe. Discuss with them about the idea of your proposal, and especially it's very useful to present sketches of your project during talks. For example, maybe it's not easy to present in Congress a workshop, but it's definitely worth to have feedback from the audience. And finally, you should also contact the funding bodies, because sometimes there is a number or web or email address you can contact, and it's really better to talk with them. In Horizon Europe, in Horizon 2020, in Horizon Europe, it wasn't so common to talk with a funding body. I mean, it was possible to do it if you applied for European Research Council project. But it's not so common. But for example, in US, if you apply for a National Institute of Health grant, you always have to talk with the person in charge of the implementation of the grant in order to understand if your proposal can be funded or not. And again, before you start writing, carefully read the proposal template. understand if there are some constraints, some page limit, and especially, please, 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 read and answer all the questions being asked, because this is the common mistake. I know that you are scientists and so you want to talk about science and so you want to talk about the methodology of your project, the excellence of your project. But there are many other things you have to think about, because they give you money, so you have to demonstrate you can manage the money. So you have to talk about the management of your project. They want to know which is the impact of your project on sorry, on other people, and not only on the scientific communities. So it's very, very important to read the answer to all the questions. And then you should provide relevant details whenever possible, but I suggest you to avoid external resources like links to website. In general, they are not very well considered. Sometimes in the template is specifically requested not to include external resources. Sometimes not, but I strongly suggest you to avoid external resources if possible. And another thing, when you think about your project, you have to have your project very clear in mind, and don't be overambitious in expectation of what can be achieved in the time scale of an award. Sometimes the researchers have very, very good idea, fantastic idea, but the idea is too big to be performed during, I don't know, 1 year, 2 years grants. So you have to consider the time scale of your award. So my suggestion for the pre-writing process are finished, and so I think we can talk about the writing process. I check the time. So evaluators first read title and abstract, and then they decide if they are interested in reading more. So you have to be very, very clear in writing both your title and also the acronym. You have to write a short, attention-catching, and clear title. I think a title very short and clear is the most effective. Of course, it is important that your article describe the subject you are writing about, but a 3-sentence long title is only boring, it's not attention catching. So think really carefully about the title. Think really carefully about also the acronym. You have to choose an easily pronounced acronym for your proposal. Because when the reviewer are together and talk about your proposal, they use the acronym to discuss about your proposal. So you have to make it easy for them to discuss about it. And then write a crystal clear abstract, because the abstract exists to sell your work. And the abstract is often the only chance you have to convince the readers to keep reading. And so it's important that that you spend time and energy crafting your abstract. I think that even if in all the grant application, the abstract is at the beginning of the template, I usually suggest the researcher I work with to write the abstract as the last thing to do, because really the abstract is fundamental to winning. I mean, the research itself is the most important part, but the abstract is really needed for selling your product. So leave the writing of the abstract at the end of your process. in an abstract, you have to explain which is the problem you are addressing, identify the purpose and motivation. You have to stress the importance of your research and its impact on your field, on your scientific field, on your or other research-related field, or other field, I don't know, on the community at large, the economic sector, the I don't know, the NGO sector. It depends of the what kind of project you are thinking about. When you write an abstract, but in general, when you write a project, a paper, you have to articulate the study significance. Here there is just a very silly example. If you say, I don't know, angina pectoris is a clinical problem, my research aims at investigating the role of something in angina pectoris development. The sentence itself is not very interesting. You have to explain why the angina pectoris is important, who cares, why is this study important for you, to your field or to the lay reader. So really articulate the study significance. And then if you are investigating a specific problem, you have to explain why you are investigating that problem. And you have to contextualize your research in the literature to introduce your point of view. Okay, so this is the part of the abstract in which you contextualize your research, explain which is the problem and how you will tackle this problem. Then you have to discuss your approach, how you will plan to solve or make progress on the challenge you are tackling. So how you will conduct your research. Maybe, I don't know, you work with a team or you work alone. What kind of methods you will use. If you have clinical, it's not your case, but I mean, if you have how many people you will include in your study, how many experiments you will do. And then you have to summarize your expected results and state your conclusion. Of course, the abstracts are very short, so you have to consider my suggestion in the context of I don't know, 2,000 characters. But I think that the best way to writing an abstract is state the problem, write your objective, write your methodological approach, and summarize your expected result and give some very brief conclusion. Never copy and paste the direct quotes from the proposal, because you have to keep the reader interested, and so it's better to use new words and new vocabulary and phrases in order to keep your abstract more catchy, more interesting. Of course, you have to consider the template of the funding body you are applying to. This is a template of the Marie Curie individual fellowship. As you can see, the abstract have a maximum number of characters with spaces. They say that to include the objective, the proposal, how they will be achieved, the relevance to the work programs. And so you have to read very well the work program. And then don't include acronyms over abbreviation in general, not only in a Marie Curie project, in your abstract, because acronym abbreviation needs space to be explained, and you don't have space in an abstract. And then, so you can use acronym or abbreviation in the introduction. And then don't use reference to people or other words unless they are very well known. Otherwise, generally avoid to reference anything outside your project in the abstract. And as also reported here, use plain text is possible, add special characters, but I would say of course, don't include the figures, sources, tables, and a long quotation in the abstract. You will have plenty of space in the main part of your proposal. And so, as concerns the main part of your proposal, here I will show you the template of a Marie Curie individual fellowship. And a Marie Curie individual fellowship has 3 sections: excellent, impact, and implementation. And these 3 sections are the section of all the grants in Horizon 2020. I don't know, I will be the template of Horizon Europe grant proposal, but probably they will be quite similar to an Horizon 2020 grant proposal application. However, if you are planning to apply for other type of grant, I'm sure that you will be asked to answer the same question that you are asked to answer in a Marie Curie project, because you will have to talk about introduction, you will have to talk about the state of the art, the objective, and so on and so forth. So even if I show you the Marie Curie template, I will talk about this information at a general level. So at the beginning of every grant application, you have to write the introduction. You have to write an overview of the action, and you have to explain how your project addresses a challenge, a priority at the local, national, global level. It depends the kind of grant you are preparing. And you have, of course, to show that you have up-to-date knowledge of the research subject, because you have to describe, to well know the state of the art in your field, because in this introduction section, you have to describe the advance your proposal would provide beyond the state of the art. So don't include old papers or very old books. It happens sometimes, because it's not very well considered. No? I think it's the same as when you write paper. So please consider up-to-date bibliography. Then after introduction about the problem you will tackle and a general description of your research activity, you have to define the objectives of your research. So the objective of your research can be considered a vision, a representation of a future, a desirable future. And these objectives have to be very clearly, has to be defined very clearly, because you have to have in mind what you want to achieve, when you want to achieve, and this specific objective and how. Sometimes goals are when I see the people writing objectives, I try, a common mistake is to consider goals like the activities. but the objectives are not the activities you will perform. You should answer the question, what I'm going to achieve, not what I'm going to perform. So when you write, you can write a general objective of your proposal, but then I suggest you to give more specific objectives. That the number of these specific objectives must be coherent with the size of your project and with the time you have at your disposal for implementing the project. In general, we say that specific objective should be smart, so specific, target a specific area of improvement. They should be measurable. So you have to quantify at least one indicator of progress. They should be assignable, so you should specify who will do it. Of course, in an individual fellowship, you will do it, but if you consider maybe a project with other people, with other group of research, you have to consider who will perform that activity and who will achieve that objective, that goal. Should be realistic, considering the resource you have, considering the time you have, and then it should be time related. You have to specify when you plan to achieve your result. Here an example from Horizon 2020 project. This is a consortium project and is the first part of the excellence section, in which you find in red an introduction with the state of the art, and then in green the objective. And in here in red you will find the overall purpose of the final goal of the project. I will send you the presentation because there is no time to look at in detail in all the example I'll put in my presentation. But I think that it's very interesting to read what every other people before you has written, and so you can have a general idea how to develop this part. The second part in the excellence section of Marie Curie is about the research methodology and approach. But of course, in every project, you have to describe the methodology section, and so you have to describe how your research will be carried out. You have to be ambitious, of course, but at the same time, you have to be realistic. And I think the most important thing here, apart from describing very well the methodology you know because you are a scientist, and trying to be as clear as possible, as specific as possible in the space you have from the template, you have to explain why the methodological approach you have chosen is appropriate in relation to the goals. And then it's very important that you describe, no, sorry, there was an example here, in a very specific way what you are planning to do. If I say we will teach art class for children, yes, it's something could be true, but it's very vague. It's not a methodological section. So you will have to include how many art sections you will do for describe the target. Here are not just children, but 8-12-year-old kids. for how long you will teach this art class and the structure of this art class. So it's the same for your kind of activities. Try to be as specific as possible. Sorry, I like to move on, but okay. You should link the methodology with the objective you plan to achieve. Also give an indication of time. Here is an extract of a Marie Curie project. Univ Parma won 3 years ago, yes. I asked the researcher if I can show you a project. I just delayed some very private part. So you can see that she linked the methodology to the specific objective. And there is a different methodology for different objectives. You need the different activities for reaching different objectives. And again, use literature-based indication for when you describe your methodological section, and indicate the data source, data on analysis technique. And then I hate this program, sorry. And then it's important to that you show all the advantages and the innovation of your approach. I mean, if you use a new technique, it's better for you to write it and explain why you use a new technique. If you use innovative equipment, explain it, or I don't know, and describe your all the different block of work you will carry on. So the second part of the template, the Marie Curie template, is about the impact. Still, I believe that you will have to describe the impact of your research in every grant you will write from now to the end of your scientific career. Because you have to consider that every call for proposal originates from specific societal challenges that your project should tackle. And so a successful, I mean, your project will have an impact not only on the scientific community, but only on the economy of, I don't know, your nation or your region. It could be possible that your result will have an environmental impact. For example, if you develop new environmental friendly products, tools, but also, I don't know, policy paper or guidance documents produced as a result of your research project. And then definitely your project could have socioeconomic impact, maybe new possibility for job creation, important policy output, new information for the general public. So when you write the impact of your project, you will not have to consider only the impact at the research level, the impact for the scientific communities that they can be measured in number of publication, conference, and workshop and so on. But you have also to consider the impact to other targets, the common people, the business sector. And also you have to consider the impact that your research will have on you. This is especially true for the Marie Curie individual fellowship, because if you applied for this kind of fellowship, you will be asked to describe how participated in individual fellowship will improve you as a researcher. In that case, you will learn new knowledge, you will have a new network, you will work with different people. So everything you will learn during the Marie Curie Fellowship will help you in become a better researcher. But then you will have also to explain the impact outside the academia. And for this reason, I ask the coordinator of CIRAM to show you the impact of this project. Actually, CIRAM received a very high score, and I think it was very well evaluated on the impact sector, because there are different in the proposal. We included a different kind of impact on the coordinating institution, on the partner of the consortium, impact on the young researcher that could have the possibility to apply, for example, for the winter school, but also growth of the industrial sector. So it's not only necessary to list the impact, but you have to explain the impact and how you will achieve the proposed impact. I mean, if I say that I want that my project has an impact on the industrial sector, and I say it will help the growth of the industrial sector, I have also to explain why. To explain how. And so here it is reported. So for this reason, I think that when you start writing a project, it could be a good idea not starting from the excellence section. So the part about the project itself, your research itself, objective, methodological part, the introduction, the state of the art, that I'm sure you are able to write. But start thinking which are the possible impact of your project. And when I think about impact, I think about impact in a short time frame, maybe during the project implementation, or even in a long time frame. So start thinking about impact at the beginning of the writing phase. But how can you maximize the impact of your project? The fact is that the European people with their taxes actually fund your project. So you have, first of all, communicate them that their money have been spent for a good project. And then, in order for your project to have a positive effect on European society, people must be able to learn about your result. And so, when in a grant is requested to write about the impact, you will be also requested to write about communication, dissemination, and exploitation activities within your project. I don't know if you know the difference between these three terms, but we talk about communication when communication is a process that starts at the beginning of your project, and it continues through the entire lifetime of the project, because you communicate the project itself, you communicate the action and also the result, but first of all, you communicate the project. So as soon as you win the project, you can communicate it Maybe as the Serum Consortium has already done, you can publish a press release, or you can create a website. You don't need to have results to communicate. On the contrary, you have to have the first result, because dissemination in the context of European grant means to make result of a project public. And so communication dissemination, sorry, is a step further in the project life cycles. At the end, there is the exploitation. Exploitation means to make use of the result produced in your project in further activities. How can you use the result of your project? It doesn't mean necessary that you have to produce something, a product, a service, a process or service. Also, the result of your the result data that you produce in your project are results, and you can use, for example, this knowledge in other projects. So the exploitation is the last part of the impact section you will be asked to write. In addition, this is true for Marie Curie individual fellowship project, but I think this is very important to know. There is a difference between outreach and communication activities. Outreach activities are meant to engage a large audience and to bring knowledge on a particular topic to the general public. Outreach activities imply an interaction between the sender and the receiver of the message. So generally, when you work, when you go on school presentation, when you participate in public talks, lab visits, these are outreach activities because we interact with our public. Communication, on the other hand, goes only in one direction, from the sender to the receiver. So in this moment, I'm doing communication, not outreach, because you can't interact with me. But tomorrow, if we talk together, I will do outreach activities because we have the possibility to chat together. So communication refers to articles, to intervention in TV, radio channels, and in general, communication and outreach activities have to be successful. Require both a very simple language and a language that can attract a lot of people, not only the scientific community. Here's a figure of what I explained you before, why we need to to communicate, disseminate, and exploit the result of our project, because we have to justify the public subsidies granted to the project, of course. But I'm joking, it's not the reason, but it's important. I think it's really important because we have to go outside, because you are the scientists here, you have to go outside your bubble and try to communicate with people who don't understand the science, and explain to them in a very easy way, in order for the people not to be scared by scientists and by the science itself. Going back to the writing process. In the Marie Curie project, you will be asked to describe your communication and dissemination activities and your exploitation activities. Because during your project, you will be requested to do communication and dissemination activities. Also in CIRAM, that is not a Marie Curie project, we wrote 2 or 3 pages, maybe more, about communication and dissemination activities. So it's very, very important also for very big project. Even in NIH project, sometimes you have to write communication dissemination activities. In many other European projects, you have to write about communication dissemination activities. And remember that you have to implement when you finally will win the project, you will have to implement these activities. So my suggestion is to be very, very clear to explain why you will do those activities. There are different reasons, because you go to a school because you want to engage the students. You publish your paper because you want to inform your peers. Then you have to think about what you will communicate or disseminate, because there is a specific language for a specific target audience. Of course, you have to state who is the target audience of your activity, and describe how you will disseminate and communicate your information through conferences, through newspaper, to journals publication. It depends, of course, from your target audience. And then at the end, you have to write when you are going to do these activities. Here an example. This is very simple, but is very common to see this kind of table in project. This table is simple because it's from a Marie Curie project, and in a Marie Curie project you only have 10 pages, so you have to be short and concise. But you can see there is a time, month 1, month 2, month 22 of the activity, the type of the activity, the target audience, and the way in how the project, how the activity will be performed, and why. Here is something quite different, but the idea is the same. Here are reported the tools and the activities, the target group, the expected impact, and in the text is reported, and then there were other columns in which there were reported the month, and here are both reported expected impact. That is also the description of the activity that will be carried out. Again, this is for the Marie Curie project, because there are, if you are a Marie Curie fellow, there are specific event that you are suggested to perform or to participate in. So going to open days at university, participate in summer school, organize summer school, create e-newsletter, and of course post a leaflet about your own project. And this is the exploitation. I mean, it's very difficult for Marie Curie grant that can last 2 or 3 years to have a proper exploitation phase. But I don't know, if you will participate in a bigger project, a longer project, there are different kinds of exploitation that you can think about, because at the end of the project, you can start other research, collaborative research or internal research. You can create, I don't know, spin-off, joint venture, you can do standardization activities. But I think, I mean, generally in a Marie Curie project, this part is not so important like as in a bigger project. However, if you are interested in the exploitation phase of your project, I strongly suggest you to visit this website that is called IPR Help Desk. It's managed by the European Commission, and on this website there are a lot of information about dissemination, communication, and exploitation. They organize webinars that are generally, I say now, they are always free. There are a lot of documents, a lot of material. They prepared some papers about writing the communication part of Marie Curie project, the exploitation part of, I don't know, Horizon 2020 project. So it's really nice to go there and have a look. And so, oh my God, we are late, so I try to go on quite quickly. The last part of a Marie Curie project is the implementation part. And as you can see from the extract of the template, you will have to talk about a work plan, the resources, the manager structure, especially the risk management, and the institutional environment. All these points, management, risk management, infrastructure, work plan, and so on, are you will have to describe in every grant. I'm quite sure. Maybe the terms will be different, but the sense will be the same. So you will have to describe your work in work packages. A work package is a part of your project structure plan. It contains all the activities that are necessary for reaching the result you expect by a given date. And each work package contains the deliverables and the so-called milestone. So I know that maybe for someone of you, I'm talking about absurd stuff, but I show you what I mean for work package and deliverable. So this is a table because many times in the European project, the work package have to be written in tables. Every work package has a number, a start month and an end month, and a title. And then there are the so-called tasks. So the steps you will carry on to complete the WP. And at the end, you will obtain some output that could be report, data, diagrams, and this output are called deliverable. Here is an example. Actually, two examples from two different Marie Curie projects. So, as you can see, there is the number of the WP, the title of the WP, the months, the length, a brief explanation with the objective of the WP, and the total duration of the WP. And then there are tasks, the step that the researcher needed to complete and to achieve the detection of strain zones and blah, blah, blah. That is the objective, sorry, not the object, the objective of this WP. And then there are the output of the WP. There are deliverable. A deliverable is always indicated with a D, the number of the work package, and then another number in order of in the time you produce, sorry, the WP. There are different ways of writing the VP, but the sense is always the same. You have to write the title, the objective, the task, and the deliverable. And also, you have to include milestones in your VP. Milestones are control points in the project that help the researcher to chart progress. They may correspond to the completion of deliverable, and so you complete a task and you are allowed to go on the next phase of your work, but may also need they may also be some intermediary points so that if you have problem you can implement corrective action. So this is just a brief information, because I think it's quite difficult at the beginning understand what is a work package, but I want you to have some information, so the next time you will see a template work package, you at least could try to remember what I say today. In a project, you will have work package on the scientific activities you will perform, but then you will have also work package on the management, on the dissemination, communication, and exploitation activities, and more specifically for a Marie Curie project, you will have also a training work package. All the information about the work plan have to be included in general in all the projects I've seen so far in a Gantt chart, where you include the length of your project, the step of your project, the activity, task you will perform. Here is just an example. There are a lot of tools you can use for producing a Gantt chart in the web. This was made with Excel, so you can do whatever you want and use whatever you want. Of course, as I said before, you have to write the time you will need to complete your work package, to complete your activity, to complete your task. But of course, you need resources. For a Marie Curie individual fellowship, you don't have to worry about writing a proper budget, because the fellowship is a fixed amount fellowship. So every month you will have a fixed amount of money to do research, for buying consumables, for buying equipment, for travel. But it's important that in every project to explain how you will use your resources and what kind of resources you will use. For resources, I mean stuff, I mean, of course, money, but also equipment, consumables, everything can be included when you talk about budget, about the resources. I think it is very important from the beginning to write the budget as specific as possible. You have to think about what you need for carrying on every specific task. How much do you need? You should try to get quotes for everything you will need, because if you win a grant, they will give you that budget. And if your budget is not correct, I mean, it's not enough because your budget was not specific, they will not give you more money. You can say, I'm sorry, I was sorry, I failed. So try to make the budget as specific as possible, even because you will be judged on your budget. Again, it's not a problem for a Marie Curie project, but I'm sure that you will have to write about the budget eventually. So think about this suggestion. And do not include any non-specific items in your budget. I mean, don't try contingency cost of miscellaneous because as a reviewer, I found it's very sloppy. I mean, you have to be clear in mind what you want and what you need and write it down. And this is really the last part of this very, very boring part. But it's important because you will be asked everywhere from every funding body to risk a contingency plan, to enumerate the risk that might endanger your research. And especially you have to describe or suggest some contingency measure. You have to identify the risk. The risk can be scientific, of course, but also administrative, but also you could have some management risk. And then I also include so climate, economic, political issues, because it happens. I mean, if you are a limnologist, so someone who work on lakes, and you have to collect your sample in a week, and all that week the weather is bad, so you cannot collect any sample. It could be a risk, so you have to explain how you can solve the risk. So in general, in a Marie Curie, you can write your risk assessment and a contingency plan in a table, but it could be a good idea also for bigger project. As I said before, you have to describe the risk. You have to rate your risk, so some risk can be low, other medium, other high, and then you have to include a contingency plan. So what you will do if something gets wrong. Of course, there are risks that are specific for specific VP, but risks that be common to all the VPs. I mean, if you say in Marie Curie, at the end of my Marie Curie, I will publish 3 papers. Of course, you can estimate the number of the papers you will publish, but that could be difficult for papers to be accepted in high-profile journals. So there's no specific VP on papers. So the fact is that the information you put in the papers can be collected from VP1, VP2, or VP3 from different scientific VP. So for this reason, here it included all the VP. So we have really almost done. Last 2 slides. When you completed your proposal, and I know that, I mean, I give you just some suggestion because the time is short. When you will finish your proposal, your big proposal, check check that everything is perfect. I mean, a nice layout is important. As a reviewer, you have to read a lot of papers. Sometimes they are boring. So you have to make the test easily readable and appealing. You can use a very nice format. Even you have to consider the layout of the funding body, but I think that you have to use the same format through all the proposal, the same font, for example. The figures, the tables, the grammar, the diagrams, they should have the same standard. And remember that even if you can use color, of course, in Marie Curie, but the text should be legible in black and white, because reviewers often they print the paper, and so if printed by the evaluators, your proposal should be readable as well. It's a good idea to proofread your proposal and evaluate your proposal using the score, the criteria I showed you before, or the criteria, the evaluating criteria of your own funding bodies. And definitely, if English isn't your native language, you should ask a native English speaker to proofread your project. This last sentence is true only for the Horizon Europe project. It was true for the Horizon 2020 project. Because since in Horizon Europe, every new submission probably will override the previous one, it's better than to don't wait until the final version is ready to upload your project on the funding and tender portals. So don't wait until the final version is ready. Maybe I remember when with Professor Briganti we was finishing the last day of the submission date. The Serum project, I think we upload, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and then we read the project, we check something else to change, so we upload again. At the end, 3 times or 4 times before we were so bored that we decided to stop. But we were lucky. The Syrian consortium were very good, but also lucky. But if you get rejected, keep trying, because it's the exception not to get funded, not the rule. I mean, being rejected doesn't necessarily mean your idea is not unfundable. It's not fundable. Because if you talk with the funding bodies, if you talk with your office at university, the colleague, and a lot of people you trust say that the idea is good, probably the idea is good, but maybe there were no enough funding for you, and or simply you might need some minor changes. And so read the comments the evaluator will send you. At the end of Horizon Europe project, you will receive the so-called evaluation summary report. There are a lot of information about your project, about how you can improve it, the strength and the weakness. So respond to the feedback from reviewer and try again, because I think that even it's not so easy, in general, good applications are funded. So for me is it. Thank you again for the Syrian Consortium to have invited me. I don't know, maybe we don't have time for a Q&A section, but as you know, tomorrow I will be at your disposal. However, for me it's done, and so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Silvia, for very useful hints that you give us for, let's say, a project or write a better application. What I would like to say that for tomorrow, if there are people, they can send me some questions and I will pass to Silvia to be prepared.
Yeah, sure.
During today, maybe it's good to have some questions and to send you. I have just one question now, which is on your experience in European projects, which is the type of the project with higher success rate?
Oh my God. No, really, it's the highest success rate in Horizon 2020. I think it was the Marie Zlodowska-Curie co-found project.
Co-found.
Yes, that's but a difficult project to implement because you need 50% of your budget.
Co-financing.
Co-financed. And I mean, since the budget is very high, generally you mean you need 1 million euros to be co-funded. So they have the highest among the highest success rate, but you see, there are difficulties before the to solve. For I don't know, the lowest, definitely the so-called future emerging technologies. Marie Skłodowska-Curie are very competitive, but I think it's a great opportunity for young researcher or experienced researcher to participate in a Marie Skłodowska-Curie project. So try.
Because we have attendee to this winter school not only from Europe, we have from Asia and from North and South America. They are eligible to international fellowship.
Absolutely, yes, they are.
So everybody in the world are eligible if the host is a European organization.
Yeah, sorry, probably I completely forgot the most important thing, that I choose the individual fellowship because everybody can apply from all over the world if they want to come to Europe, of course. And also, I have to say that if you apply, if you are an European citizen, you can apply. I mean, you can apply for 2 different kind of fellowship. You can spend all the time in Europe, or you can spend part of your fellowship in Europe and part of your fellowship in a third country, but then you have to come back to Europe. I will not give, I don't want to give you many details on the eligibility condition of the next Marie Curie so-called individual fellowship, because they are not published yet, and I know there will be some changes, but I'm sure that the fact that if you are from all over the world and you want to come to Europe, will still eligible. You will still eligible even in Horizon Europe.
Okay, thank you. So regarding the dissemination, so in this morning, an article in a journal, local journal, write about our winter school.
Great. I think it's a great news. So you have to include this information, of course, when you will write the report, the report for the European Commission. This is a communication activities, because they don't talk about the result of your project, but they talk about the project itself and your activity. And you can also put a link on the CIRAM website to this article. Is that it was a question?
No.
Sorry.
It was a proof that you say it during the presentation.
Yeah, sorry. Because sometimes I usually think I try to answer a question if there are no questions. I think it's a great news. I mean, it's the reason why it's so interesting to participate in international project, because people around the world are interested, people outside the scientific community are interested. I think that the role of a scientist is also that of explaining people that are not scientists that science can be fun. I mean, participating in a winter school is fun. It would have been better to be in your place, but
yes,
I hope for the next summer. Please invite me again.
Yes, definitely. Okay. So if there are other questions for Silvia, but we will have tomorrow afternoon time, because now it's already 1 p.m., 2 p.m. in Romania. If there is any short question, or someone could not attend the meeting tomorrow and want to ask a question for Silvia, please.
if you send me the question, I can then write you and you can publish somewhere.
Okay, and you can send me a PDF of your presentation.
Sure.
We open a campus, a virtual campus for the registered participants.
Mm-hmm.
All the presentations will be there.
Okay, great. I will send you my
Okay.
presentation.
Thank you.
And I would like just to add, if someone of the person present want to have a personal meeting tomorrow, please, it could be very useful for me if you write me an email so we can decide a specific time according to how many people will ask me to have a chat. I mean, if there are only 2 persons, we can spend 45 minutes each. Otherwise, I think we have shorter a lot of time. But for the answer of today, for the question of today, you can write them to me and I will reply as soon as I can. But I mean, until tomorrow. Yes, I hope to do it until tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Silvia, for all your support during application, signing the contract, and now during the implementation of the project.
Oh yeah, it was very fun. So I'm very happy with the Serum project. You were my best client so far. I will write my email address here in the chat because someone asked me to provide email again. This is my university address. And there are many other programs that don't require financing. There are programs for the business as well. Business can participate in MRE Curie project. So maybe I will reply to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much again. Thank you, Silvia.
Bye. Have a nice day.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.